everybody. Welcome to Bayou Bets. It is Thursday, January 11th, 2024. We've got a lot to talk about today. Before we do so, we'll remind you, bet.nola.com is your source for all the line moves, all the value plays, and we politely ask you to subscribe to the Bayou Bets YouTube channel. You'll always find out when we're going live. Like right now, Mondays, Thursdays, 4 o'clock. Fridays, usually, with Attitude at 10 a.m. So we'll see how that goes. Just hit subscribe. That's all you got to do. While you're in there, you can hit the like button, too. We wouldn't mind that at all. All right. Topics today with my friend Spencer the Guru. We are going to be talking about, well, you get it. I mean, all the coaching changes, Belichick, Saban, Carroll, yet there's one particular coaching change that hasn't been made. What in the hell is going on? We're going to talk about that. NFL wildcard weekend, and then our big bucks picks, and we will release the turkey, the super turkey of the week. One of the worst weeks of the year on this show for this turkey. All right, what's up, Spence?
Hey, what's up, Jim? Yeah, excited to talk about all these coaching changes. You know, a lot of big names stepping away and or being forced out. So Saban definitely just stepping away. He was still at a high level. But Belichick and Carroll, I know we'll get more into it, but, man, both of those seemed like I think that was – I'll save my thoughts, but let's just say I don't think that was mutual.
Oh. I mean, I think they it's no surprise, actually. I was talking about that before, but Pete Carroll, I guess, is probably the least of the three surprises if you look at it. I mean, he's had the same record, by the way, Pete Carroll, as the Saints have had the past 3 years. So he's had a couple of 9-8s and a 7-10. Not going to get you to keep your job, so I don't know why he's all that surprised. Meanwhile, Belichick and Saban, maybe you're not surprised that Belichick is gone. I mean, most people predicted that he'd be gone, but I thought it was kind of that preference was super weird, Spencer. Having those two guys out there, and it was very Kraft kept trying to hug Belichick, and I was like, okay, if you want to hug me, all right. And then Saban quitting was a shock, but just weird.
Yeah, definitely. It's always kind of awkward when a legend retires. It's like, how do you handle it, especially when it's kind of like spur of the moment like this. So I think it's just the nature of the beast with this stuff. It's hard to like know how to handle it because it's not that, because I think it was Kraft and the same with Carroll. Like, I think the ownership just had to step in and just had to be like, look, we're not going to fire you, but we're letting you go, and we're going to let you go. You've earned the right to have a final press conference, and so we're going to do that for you. But if they were someone like Arthur Smith or Ron Rivera, they'd have been fired on Monday. I mean, let's be real here. I mean, these guys, I don't think they really wanted to go, but I think ownership forced them out.
All right, well, since I'm going to be embarrassed later, because I'm just going to let the cat out of the bag. I mean, not only am I the turkey of the week, but it's like embarrassing turkey of the week. Okay, my picks were awful last. So just to show, so that getting that out of the way, that I'm going to be the turkey of the week. Sometimes I do get them right. I said this back in July on Fox 8's Final Bet show. They asked me to come on every 2-3 weeks or so. I thank Gillen and Juan Kincaid for doing that. But this is what I said way back in July. Even the sun shines on a dog's ass every now and then.
Does Alabama want to go through a rebuilding process and keep going with a 71, 72-year-old coach? It's a good question. I mean, I just don't know the answer. I tell you what, I don't think Alabama is going to be anywhere near the kind of Alabama that we're used to. I've said that before. I'll say it again. I really think this might be Nick Saban's last year.
Things are getting rough for Bill Belichick.
What kind of odds could I get for Nick Saban and Bill Belichick having their season in the same year? It's a possibility.
See, but I wasn't smart enough to actually try to go find them. I mean, if I would have been smart enough to find those odds and parlay that somewhere, even if it was an offshore account, so I'm a dummy. So I go and predict stuff like this, and then I don't even go bet it. So I get nothing out.
Well, at least you got them right, Well, we'll see at the
unlike my picks last week.
Right. As far as the Saints, though, I don't think they're getting this Dennis Allen thing right. I was hoping after our Monday show, that Mickey would step in and just be like, look, we got to make a change. I mean, a lot of teams, not everyone got fired on Monday. I mean, the more tough decisions like Tennessee with Vrabel, Seahawks with Carroll, Patriots with Belichick, those didn't come till later in the week. So I was hoping that the Saints would also join the party. But we're already at Thursday now. The more days go by, the less chance DA gets fired, and it's starting to.
Yeah,
I was
thinking we're about 1% now.
Exactly. I was thinking on Monday it was about like 30 to 40%, but then the next day 20 to 30, next day 10 to 20. Now we're at best 5 to 10.
Yeah, I forgot to change the screen there, as you see, but it's frustrating. I mean, again, we showed you this was our cover photo of the day. If you didn't see it, these three guys are gone, but dude on the bottom right still here. Doesn't make any. Someone please make sense of this. That the three of the best coaches around are all gone. Down to I just don't get it. I mean, we talked about when you lose the locker room, you've lost the team, and so. Is Mickey Loomis going and talking to the team? Well, we're all on the same page now. I mean, I had a talk with them. They're all going to listen to you from now on, DA. And if they don't, I'm going to step in and we're going to punish them. We're gonna send them to their rooms without supper.
Yeah, I think it's getting to the point to where if the Saints have a disaster season, then Gail Benson's going to have to go up to Mickey at this time next year and be like, look, Mickey, you got to go. We'll give you your final presser and all that like they did with Bill. But it's like at a certain point, you got to make a change. And the way this Saints thing's trending, it stinks. I mean, it's stinking awfully similarly to the way the Patriots were stinking heading into 2023. And we saw how that turned out. 4 wins.
Jeff Duncan tweeted something out this morning about how the Saints have one of the easiest schedules against you. I was surprised when I put this together. These teams actually did have a 453 opponents winning percentage, which means I think the Saints are somewhere in the bottom 3 or bottom 4 as far as. But this schedule, you can forget that this time because this schedule is clearly tougher than the one that they just went through. The only reason why it's that low is because you're adding a Carolina. You get Carolina twice. They win football team. And you get Washington, who was, 4-13 or whatever it was. You take that out and you look at the rest of it, even the crap division team plays in. The Broncos, they had 8 wins. They're going to be better next year. The Raiders, we don't know what they're going to be, but they're pretty tough, 8 wins. The Rams, Saints couldn't beat them last year. They're going to be just as good or better next year. We know the Eagles are going to solve a lot of problems. You go to the other side and talk about the road. It's never had to play teams like Dallas and Kansas City. They got to play them on the road. They got to go back to Green Bay, who we knows better. We don't know what's going to happen with the Chargers already. I don't care what the numbers say this time. Unlike last year when I said this schedule's super easy, Saints should be able to navigate this. I'm going to run in the window to play the under.
Right, yeah, I don't care about the schedule. I got so sick of hearing that, and that's why I like the Saints under wins for 2023 because I was just everyone's excuse for taking the over. Oh, well, they've got the easiest schedule in the NFL. I don't care. They're led by Dennis Allen and Derek Carr, and more so Dennis Allen as far as Dennis Allen's a proven loser at the NFL level. I mean, he had a winning season this year only because of that sorry schedule. And he still ended up the under to 9.5 wins in Vegas. So taking Saints unders 2 years in a row under DA, the Saints under. Ching. So for those betting on Saints unders, you're winning and probably going to be able to profit again in 24, assuming they keep him, which is looking like they will. Because looking at that road schedule, my God, that's 4 automatic L's, I feel like. Dallas with Dak, that's an L. Kansas City with Mahomes, that's an L. Packers with Jordan Love getting better, that's an L. Chargers with Herbert, the new coach, that's an L.
We'll see. I think there are going to be a lot of L's next year, though. Look, if you want to comment or ask a question, you're more than welcome to. Just type your comment into the stream, whether you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, or even X now. You can type it in, and we will see it and put it on here as JJ's done. The clipboard holder is still here, too. Pete Carmichael hasn't even been fired yet. What in the hell? If they keep this dude. Now, I know the talk is, okay, bring in Gruden, who's going to be, quote-unquote, offensive assistant, which means he'll probably call the plays. But what in the hell do you need? I mean, why is Pete Carmichael still here?
I have no idea. Well, I know why. I can tell you why. Because he's got friends in high places as far as within the Saints organization. He's got it in good with them, and the Saints are loyal to a fault, as we all know, even with their player personnel. I mean, even with as far like with Michael Thomas. I know it feels like beating a dead horse, but it's just something that's just the easiest example to me of how they're just way too loyal in this business. This is a cutthroat business. The NFL, an old cliche as NFL stands for not for long, but it's the truth. Yeah. I mean, unless you're Bill Belichick, but even Bill Belichick got outs. I mean, there's no one that's immortal at the NFL level. So yeah, it's sad the way the Saints are trending right now.
They're not beating a dead horse. They're chopping dead wood. What they're doing. So that's going to be my new statement. I think I'm going to use that on Datitude tomorrow. JJ wants to know, all kidding aside, however, what are the odds that Allen makes it through a full? I mean, you can't say. I mean, you can't say whether he'll make it through a full season next year. Now, I mean, we're already talking. I've got people all over my feeds. I'm going to say the same thing though. I would have said 6 weeks ago. I'm not going to root for him to lose. People are going to go like this. They're going to be rooting for him to lose in September, which makes no sense. I mean, you still root for your team to win. I hope I'm dead wrong, okay? It makes for a much better show. More people want to hear positivity. They want to just – I mean, negativity is worse sometimes when everybody's mad, right? But, I mean, that crap only lasts for so long. You can't keep talking negative, and expect people want to read and hear what you have to say. So I'm going to go into next season optimistic somewhat and hope that I'm wrong. I hope Dennis Allen gets a chance to say – you're an idiot. You're an idiot. You're an idiot. Especially you, Derry. You're a big idiot. I hope he gets a chance to say that. I just don't see how.
Yeah, I don't either. He just doesn't have the moxie to me to be a successful head coach. I mean, it was like the Falcons thing, and just to go back to it, because I know that was the hot topic on Monday. There's a certain way you handle that, and he just completely fumbled it. You just got to handle that. I mean, if you don't feel great about it, that's one thing. I get it. They went rogue on you, so of course you're not going to feel great about it. But address that internally, and if you want to address it at the press conference, keep it brief. Don't make that your opening statement. That's the thing that I think really messed him up. Is that he, by making that his opening statement, that's the thing that everyone was talking about. No one was talking about the outcome of the game itself. Everyone was talking about his lack of leadership and how he lost the locker room.
Well, there's no doubt about that for sure. Look, we're going to be moving on because we spent 35, 40 minutes talking about this last Monday, and we did want to open the show with it because of the coaching changes. And look, when you get a Belichick, when you get a Saban, when you get a Carroll, all being gone within 30 hours of one another, look, that's the major story, right? I mean, even here in New Orleans, we got, I got a friend of mine who lives up in New England, and he's talking about how he feels dead inside. He said that was his quote. I'm like, we've been feeling that for 2 years now. So it doesn't get any better. To my friend up there, doesn't get any better 2 years later. Still feels just as bad as it did before. We'll see. Mr. says feels like 7 to 9 wins is doable.
I don't see it. I don't see it.
A big time optimist.
No, I know he went through the rough years. I understand why he's trying to stay positive, but I don't say this. I don't see it.
We'll say this, living through the 70s and into the 80s, I can tell you, a season like this would have been welcome. There wouldn't have been, all the downers. There would have been people excited and fired up and selling the dome out and going to the games. There wouldn't have been blue and silver for when we played the Lions. So, I mean, for those of you young and spoiled by what Sean Payton and Drew Brees brought here, and I'm going to leave it at this before we move on. I'm the Derek Carr haters are out of control, by the way. It's kind of calmed down a little bit since everybody on his butt. But you look at where Derek Carr finished. He finished somewhere around 12th, I believe, among quarterbacks. Guess where he gets paid? Guess where his pay rank is? 12th. So, I mean, he did almost exactly what he was supposed to do. So, and regardless of what anybody thinks, this is going to be rolling it back with him again next year. So you can hate him all you want. You can talk bad about him next year. Who are you going to talk more bad about? Dennis Allen, Derek Carr? That's not a question, sir. I'm asking you, the viewer out there.
Oh, neither one. You got to keep it positive, brother. You got to keep it positive.
Keep it positive. All right, let's move on about the playoffs because Super Wild Card Weekend. Look, I was against the whole 7 teams per conference, but I got to say, if you're going to do it, the NFL always does things the right way when it comes to stuff like this. it still seems like too much to me. I still wish they would go back to 6 teams. I think the second seed deserves a bye as well. But that being said, I do like the fact that there are 6 games this weekend, including one on Monday. I like the Monday game. I know a lot of people complain about it, but I like it. So we look at the AFC, and I think there's some fun games here. Cleveland, Houston is intriguing for lots of reasons. Look, Houston's kind of like, the Saints were. We talked about the old Saints. Well, the Saints, the first time they made the playoffs, even though the Texans have been in the playoffs before, I think this is going to be a whole new team, a bunch of new players, a new coach. I think it's going to be exciting in Houston, fun to watch. And then you got Miami and Kansas City, and what's supposed to be single-digit temperatures and wind chills below 0. And then you're going to have a blizzard or thereabouts in Buffalo. Buffalo and the Steelers, that one's changed away, in case you didn't notice. Dropped to 9.5 about an hour ago. So I think there's some intriguing matchups on both sides, the AFC and the NFC.
Right. Yeah. Well, it looks like the bad weather's finally rearing its ugly head because a lot of regular season we got lucky. Didn't really have too many games affected by weather, but it's at least 1 or 2 weekends out the year that East Coast blizzard comes in. So yeah, it looks like it. Well, even Kansas City's getting it, and they're in the Midwest. So it's interesting. It makes it to where, unders seem appealing. I'll say one of my big bucks picks is an under in this deal, but I guess like my initial thoughts here is that the AFC slate it's just juicier than the NFC slate. The AFC slate is just like, I do admit Detroit Rams, that's one I'll be locked in on, but all 3 of these AFC games, well, Bill Steelers kind of meh, but outside that one, these other 2 bangers. Browns Texans, great storylines on both sides. Dolphins Chiefs, both kind of struggling, but we know how much talent both of them have. So really excited to see what happens there. And even for the Bills, it's like, can Josh Allen get over his postseason woes and just his turnover proneness? He's clearly got the talent, but can he get the results now? This is his time. He got the 2 seed. He's on the 5-game heater. This is time for Josh Allen to put up or shut up.
What's even more interesting is if the Chiefs and Bills both win, obviously they're both favored to win. The Chiefs and Bills both win. They will play each other next week in Buffalo. So, we've been waiting a long time to see Mahomes on the road in the playoffs. If Mahomes wins this week, he's going to be on the road next week. No matter what, he will be on the road. And if Buffalo wins, it will be at – well, I can say that no matter what. I take that back. If Pittsburgh wins, then actually Kansas City would be home if they won. So that no matter – but man, that Patrick Mahomes going to Buffalo in the second round, like, a couple of years ago, remember that crazy – what, he had 15 seconds to come back and win the game. There was controversy in the game. That one was at Kansas City, but that was also a second-round game, a divisional round game. So they could be set to play again, Spencer, in the divisional round, this time at Buffalo. And I personally would like to see Mahomes against Allen in Buffalo this time.
Right. Yeah, see what Bills Mafia is made of. And I think I kind of like the Bills this postseason because I just think last year – the whole Damar Hamlin thing just threw off their whole chemistry. Have something that traumatic happen. I think that they were donezo. They tried to be, it's motivation. He's there watching all that, but let's be real. Those guys were shell shocked. Then they had in the division round against the Bengals. They weren't all there. And I think that kind of bled over into this season. Remember how slow Buffalo started? They blew that season opener against the Jets. They had so many just lulls and lapses, but I think the firing of Ken Dorsey was the right move because ever since then, the offense, it hadn't been as pretty per se, but it's been way more efficient under Joe Brady. A lot better running game. They can actually run the football now. We all know what Leonard Fournette's capable of in the postseason. So I think this Bills team's peaking at the right time.
What a concept. Not staying status quo. You could make an argument that can Dorsey do anything worth getting fired for? But the Bills said, you know what? We got to do something. We got to shake this team up. What's happened since they shook the team up? Went from knowing that they would make the playoffs to the 2 seed. What a difference just a few weeks makes. So it worked out for them. I'm not saying it always works out, but at least it was a team that was willing to do something because they're all in. They want to win the playoffs. You got a Saints team, on the other hand, that's like, we'll stick with what we got. Who in their right mind? Realistically, who in their right mind thinks the Saints are going to be any kind of viable team next year, this coach. I mean, who could realistically think that? You just can't. So I know I'm getting off topic here because we swore we keep going playoffs. It's just frustrating. Look, my team to watch. I think this is going to be an interesting Cleveland and Houston. I'll get to my analysis in big bucks because I do have it as one of my picks. But man, Cleveland's an interesting. We talked about it the other day, Spencer. As far as futures go, if they can win this game, they're going to go play at Baltimore most likely, unless Miami wins. They would go to Baltimore, and or Pittsburgh wins. But I don't think many people think that the Steelers have much of a realistic chance, especially without J.J. Watt. But if Cleveland goes to Baltimore next week, one of the sharps that I listened to had a great point. He said this is why Cleveland is great value, and I think they're somewhere in the neighborhood of 30-1 right now, 25-1, 30-1 to win the Super Bowl. And why they're a value, Spent, is, again, this is no gimme. They're only a 2-point favorite at Houston, but if they were to win this game and go play in Baltimore, not only will they be familiar with Baltimore, but their next games likely would be somewhere where the elements come into play, unless Miami were to know they would host Miami. So no matter what happens out of this, they're going to be playing outdoors in January kind of weather, which I think suits Cleveland maybe better than any other team in this entire playoffs.
Yeah, I agree. I think if I'm a Baltimore fan, I'm rooting for the Texans because I feel like with the Texans, and yeah, it's a young team with nothing to lose, but I feel like going to Baltimore, they're going to get cooked. And it's not necessarily a criticism of C.J. Stroud. I love what C.J. Stroud's done, but the Texans are beat up right now, especially at wide receiver. Tank Dell's out for the season. Noah Brown's banged up. Robert Woods is banged up. Dalton Schultz had injuries down the stretch. Their skill group is very beat up, and I don't really trust Devin Singletary to be like a true difference maker at running back going against an elite run defense like Cleveland or Baltimore. So maybe the Texans sneak past Cleveland. I'm not sorry, Gabe. I'm going with Cleveland. I think the Browns are in a pretty good spot here with Joe Flacco, and it'll set up for the potential revenge narrative against the Ravens. That would make for a very, very interesting divisional round matchup.
Well, I mean, I don't think any realistic Texans fan would be. I mean, they'd be upset, of course, the moment because their team lost and it's over. But I think when you get past Saturday, any realistic Texans fan is going to say, "Wow, what a season!" So I don't think anyone's going to be all that upset if that were to happen. And meanwhile, the Browns, to me, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I guarantee you the Raven fans are rooting for the Texans to win this game because they don't want anything to do with Cleveland and that defense. You're talking about, and could you imagine Joe Flacco against Baltimore, going back to Baltimore? That would be just as fun as Matthew Stafford this week going back to Detroit. We'll get to that in a little bit. In fact, we can get to that now. The NFC has got some interesting matchups. See, I don't know if I agree with you. I think these are some interesting matchups as well, especially maybe because I'm old and I see Green Bay and Dallas and two old school NFC teams. I think back to NFC Championship back before I was born, 1967. And just the Bowl and just some of the games these teams had back when I was like super little, and even Brett Favre days. I just think that, to me, that's like the iconic kind of matchup, Green Bay and Dallas. And then you talked about it, Rams and Detroit, probably the marquee matchup of the weekend. And look, even Eagles Bucks. I mean, people are sleeping on both of these teams. They're in the playoffs for a reason. You never know if one of these teams gets hot. It's always someone you don't think is going to win, right? And that's why I think that who wins that game have a realistic chance to make some noise, especially if the winner doesn't have to go to San Francisco. In other words, if the Rams or the Packers win, then the winner of that Tampa Bay-Philadelphia game does not have to go to San Francisco. They would go to either Detroit or Dallas, and who knows?
Oh, yeah, we know how Dallas struggles in the postseason. So, yeah, I think Philly would be the one if they can get past Tampa. We know what they're capable of if Jalen Hurts can get healthy. I'm just worried that they're so beat up to where I kind of think Tampa sneaks past them here. That's another big Bucks pick of mine. I like Tampa this week, with Baker. He's not been great the past couple weeks, but he showed down the stretch what he's capable of. And I think Mike Evans and Chris Godwin are going to torch that struggling Eagles secondary, to where I think Tampa Bay is in a pretty good spot here. I feel like they're getting slept on. A lot of people are like, the NFC South winner, what a joke. They've got no chance. Look what happened to them last year. But I think it's different circumstances this year. I think Baker Mayfield's in a little better spot than an aging Tom Brady was at this point last year. So I think Tampa's the interesting team here. This Cowboys Packers thing, I think, is going to end up ugly. Like, I don't see Jordan Love being able to handle this, and not necessarily going to be his fault, but they're just too young.
Kansas City. Yeah.
They're just too young.
Worth a damn.
That's what I'm saying.
They beat Kansas City.
Yeah, he's just too young. The whole team's too young. It's like an entire rookie room of receivers and tight ends. To me, anyone picking Green Bay here is delusional. Or a Cowboys hater. Yeah. One of the two.
Well, they're definitely a Cowboys haters, but let me tell you, somebody's betting on the Packers because this line's been 7.5 all week long. It changed today. 7.
That's wild.
And it's actually gone from 7 even money to 7 minus 105, which means it's still going towards the Packers. I thought once it got to 7, it would stop, but it has not. So there's sharp money on the Packers, but I'm with you. I don't see any way this Packers defense is going to be able to stop Dak. I just don't. And I actually think that even more so, I think the Cowboys are going to be able to run the football. I'll get to that in a little bit again as we're going to go to our big bucks. In fact, let's get to our picks. It was an interesting week last week. Well, interesting in the fact that 2 of us did really well and 2 of us stunk up the joint. Guess who stunk up the joint? I mean, come on, man. You got to do better than 1 and 4.
Giblets. I've had my share of giblets, but yeah, other than that 0-5 week, I think that might be the second worst week.
Oh my goodness. All right. Well, we're gonna get to the picks, and then we're also gonna bring in our friend.
Oh, and you got a blizzard going on back there.
What the hell happened back there? It's snowing in Superdome.
I guess that's fitting. They're gonna have a lot of snow this weekend, so
it doesn't like my turkey. I have no idea how that happened. All right, look. Before we go, Thomas is off. He's got some meetings going on, so he couldn't be here. We'll just throw his picks out there. It is snowing. It's so weird. It's like blizzard in the dome. That is so odd.
There you go. They took the roof off.
I didn't like my turkey hat. I don't know what is going on. All right, Thomas's pick. You see him this week. He's got 3 player props. One of them changed so much. I had Isaiah Pacheco in my player props, but when I got it, it's in my my picks column this week. But when I picked it, it was over 60.5. Because shows it's been pounded. It is up to 66.5. I didn't want any. I couldn't do it anymore. I had to take it out of my picks. He's got Jahmyr Gibbs over 12.5 rush attempts. I like that. He's getting better than even money on that one. And then Joe Flacco over 1.5 passing touchdown indoors at Houston. I also like that. The last time they played, threw for over 300 yards. Looks like Amari Cooper is going to be able to play. I think that makes a big difference on where he can do that as well. Like that pick. Then teaser, he's got Tampa Bay getting 9 in a teaser, and Buffalo again down to 3.5 over Pittsburgh, and then money line parlay, Kansas City over Miami and Cleveland over Houston at plus 150. I think that's an interesting number. All right, well that means that I go first this week because I stunk up the joint, and I have a couple similar plays. Like I told you, I had that Pacheco, and I had to change it out, and I'll tell you what I changed it out with in just a minute. But this is my play of the year. Which means go bet against it if you want. Play of the year at minus 135, $54 to win 40. I've not done that yet this year. I'm not doing it try to catch up. I promise. I love this pick that much. That's why I'm doing it. Kansas City just to win. Buffalo just to. I would be absolutely floored if Buffalo lost this game to Pittsburgh. I mean, floored. And so it comes down to Kansas City over Miami. And I think the play of last week and the fact that Miami is so beat up along the front lines is going to allow Kansas City to be able to do what they want to do. I also think Kansas City could really make a run. Everybody's counting them out. So I think that's an interesting team to watch. I think the winner, if that happens, and next week we get Kansas versus Buffalo, I truly believe whoever would win that game will win the AFC. More on that coming up later on. Eagles minus $3. I'm not with Spencer here, and I'm really not with a lot of other people that I know, including Sharps. I know the Sharps like a lot of the Sharps like the Bucs. It's no confidence in the Eagles. I just think this is probably the best team they could have played in the playoffs. If you're going to go somewhere and go on the road and play in the playoffs, Bucs is the best place to go. The Bucs cannot stop the pass. And I know Jalen Hurts is banged up, and that we'll see how that finger's working, and A.J. Brown's banged up, Devontae Smith's banged up. But I still think they're going to be able to throw the ball. I think that Hurts will be able to run out of that formation, out of the pistol. And I just think the Eagles are going to have their way like they did back in week 2. Teaser leg. Look, I wanted to take the Rams. I really did. But that should be +9, by the way, not +9.5. I wanted to take the Rams at +3, but I couldn't do it. Everybody's on the Rams. And so it scared me enough to make it part of a teaser leg. What was I going to pair it with? I think the Pittsburgh Buffalo on it. I know that blizzard that it's going to – I don't know how Pittsburgh's going to score, but I don't feel comfortable enough laying 9.5 points. So I went with the under here. I really like this teaser. I probably should have made it maybe my second pick. And then I filled in Pacheco. I put in Browns -2 over Texans. We were talking about it. I really think Cleveland is the value play of this entire playoffs. Got to pick them here. You got Flacco, and then you got a rookie quarterback in C.J. Stroud. And over, I believe it's the past 12 years, when you got a quarterback playing his first postseason game against the spread, they are 17-31. So this goes to show that's not just rookies. That's all first-time playoff participants going against an experienced quarterback in Joe Flacco, who's already won a Super Bowl and is in his shot to be able to play the Ravens. And then my other player prop, I did leave this one in, although it changed a little bit. Tony Pollard over 61.5 rushing yards. Like I said, I think that Dallas will be able to run the ball against the 28th ranked rushing defense in the NFL, and that is the Green Bay Packers. All right, we're going to go to Gabe next.
Yeah, while I don't necessarily agree, Jim, with your Browns -2, I'm an optimistic Texans fan here. I'm staying away from that spread, even if I'm teasing it. So my teaser here, I have Browns-Texans. I teased it down to over 38.5. Cleveland's 11-6 to the over this season, and while the Texans are the opposite of that, I think this is going to be a shootout. The Texans are getting fully healthy on offense, minus Tank Dell, obviously. And then the other leg of that is Dallas -1 against Green Bay. You know, Dallas is riding a 16-game home winning streak. The Packers are really inexperienced, and all Dallas needs to do here is win, and I think they get that done. Then I have the Bills -3.5 against the Steelers. Tease that down, as well as Kansas City +1.5 against Miami. Listen, we talked about it earlier in pre-production, Jim. The Steelers won't be able to score. I genuinely don't know where that offense is going to come from. I think the Bills are going to win this one handily, as you said as well. I'd be shocked if they didn't. In terms of Miami and Kansas City, Miami is totally defeated right now. They're going to be in the freezing cold. They're banged up, and I've always said it. You know, Patrick Mahomes is like Nick Saban in the NFL to me. I'm not going to bet against him. It's still the Kansas City Chiefs. Whether or not they've been great this season or not, it's the playoffs. This is where the best stars shine, and the Chiefs have plenty of them. I just don't think the Dolphins are good enough against good teams to be able to go into Kansas City and win that game in the cold. I also have Josh Allen, anytime touchdown scorer. Listen, he scored 15 rushing touchdowns this season. Last game snapped the 5-game streak, so he scored with his legs in 5 of the last 6, and he's gotten the most opportunities to run the ball in from the 1-yard line. I think Josh Allen gets back on the score sheet by himself, and I think he scores another rushing touchdown against the Steelers this week. I'm with you, Eagles. I'm not going to take them to cover the 3. I like the money line value here. We're going against Mabel together. I think the Eagles are still a much more talented team. The Buccaneers' offense has been really bad recently, and as you, the point you made earlier was the Bucs have the worst pass defense in the league, and that doesn't bode well even against the banged-up Eagles receivers. And then my last one, I have a player prop here: C.J. Stroud over 247.5 passing yards. He's getting all of his weapons back minus Tank Dell. Noah Brown and Robert Woods both expected to play. C.J. Stroud, among starters who have started 10-plus games this season, averaged the most yards per game in the NFL at 293. I believe he went over the 247 mark 8 times this year. And the big news out of Browns camp today, Denzel Ward's banged up. I think this is going to be a high-scoring affair, as I have in my first leg of my teaser. Give me the over and give me C.J. Stroud to throw at least 250 yards.
Didn't scare you at all that he's going up against the number 1 defense in the NFL, and B, he's a first-time participant in the playoffs?
No, it doesn't scare me because here's the one thing about going up against the number one pass defense. If this is a blowout, as a lot of people think it might be, CJ Stroud actually performs well in these type of games, minus the Jets game, which is just those awful conditions. Week 2 against Indianapolis, probably his best game this year. That's because he almost led a late comeback. They were getting blown out at home. I really trust him in this spot. Maybe he won't lead the Texans to a win. Maybe that's me just being an optimistic fan. But I think he does get the yardage.
I will say this, that I will say that what would scare me is I'm going to think back to his first game, because I think this is going to be a lot like his first game. His first game was against Baltimore. Again, I don't think that the Browns are as good as Baltimore. We'll find out maybe soon enough. Maybe we won't. I think that's one of the things that scared me off of some of these picks. That game's really weird, though. It wouldn't surprise me at all if the Texans win, because I will say this. C.J. Stroud looks like he hasn't cared the past few weeks who he's playing, and I'll give him credit. Again, I haven't given him enough credit this year. And last week against Indianapolis, he went there and did his thing. We'll see if we can do it against the number one defense. Spence, we have seen a lot of we've talked about a lot of picks already, but, talk about the ones you want to talk about. An interesting slate this week.
For sure. Yeah, my best bet this week, Rams +3 over the Lions. I just don't like what I've been seeing from the Lions. I know they'll be at home, but I just feel like Dan Campbell's going to find a way to screw it up. I mean, they're just a franchise that just suffers from heartbreak time and time again. Plus, Matthew Stafford, he's going back to the place he played for a decade. So it's like, I mean, I don't think he's going to be uncomfortable over there. I think he's going to do his thing. They've got a lot of weapons on offense. I don't see the Lions defense being able to contain Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, and Kyron Williams. So I'll take the Rams with the 3 just in case Detroit ends up squeaking it out. And I got the Browns over the Texans. Talked about it earlier, but I like the Browns defense here. I think they'll give Stroud some trouble. And even if Stroud does well, I've got faith in Joe Flacco that he'll be able to lead them to the win. Their offense has been on another level with him. I don't think that's just a fluke. I think this team's bound to win at least one playoff game, maybe 2. So I'll go with them. Then got the under in Miami at Kansas City. The weather made this one. I was on this even before the weather. Like, the weather is what sold it for me. But even before the weather, I was like, man, the offenses are trending down right now. We all know Mahomes is struggling with getting chemistry with his receivers. Mike McDaniel, it seems like ever since that Titans game on Monday night, they haven't been the same on offense. So I was with that anyway. So then you throw the weather in on top of that, I'll definitely take the under here. I probably should have put more on that now that I'm thinking about it. But also got the Bucks over the Eagles going against y'all on this one. I don't trust Philly here. Jalen Hurts banged up. A.J. Brown banged up. Devontae Smith banged up. I know the Bucks suck against the pass, but the Eagles pass game banged up to the point where I don't even know if they'll be able to have success against the Bucks. But I do feel like Baker will be able to do enough with Evans and Godwin to where they'll be able to sneak out the win at home. And they got a little parlay here, same game parlay. Packers Dallas over 50.5. I think most of those will be courtesy of Dallas, but I think Jordan Love will show some fight. I don't think they'll just completely fold. Dallas's defense somewhat vulnerable, so I think they'll do enough on both sides to get that over 50.5. And then Dak Prescott over 1.5 passing touchdowns. I definitely think he throws at least 2 or 3. CeeDee Lamb's been balling out. Brandon Cooks has believes caught a touchdown in the past 3 weeks. And Green Bay's defense, let's be real, they are not a playoff caliber defense. So I think Dak has his way with them on Sunday.
Let me give you a little stat that'll help you out, Spencer. The Dallas Cowboys at home, so they've averaged the most points in the league this season overall. At home, they're averaging over 37 points a game this year.
There you go. Maybe I should have put more on that one as well.
I love the over in that game.
The only thing that scares me about the over, and I'm with you, if I had to take it, I would definitely take the over before I touch the under. But it scares me that Jordan Love is going to be deer in the headlights, and they just stomped, and it's like 38-0. I mean, I could see that. I don't think that's going to happen. I think they'll be able to score some points, but that's the only thing that would scare me off of that at all. Lonnie's talking about the Saints, I guess, how the players' perspective, which is just finish over 500 in a winning streak easily. They played the worst schedule in like the last 8 years. One of the easiest schedules ever. That's how they played it. Their winning percentage against was like 408 or something along those lines. So
Yeah, it was embarrassing.
I mean, finishing over 500 with a winning streak is no feat with who they played. None whatsoever. So if you want to take something out of that, you go for it, Lonnie. If you're happy with where this team is and wants to go into next year with this group, go. I mean, good for you, man. I applaud your positivity. I don't know how you do it. As I take this hat off, because I'm tired of it snowing in the dome. I applaud your positivity.
Oh, the snow stopped.
I can't do it. Yeah, it said it was the hat. I don't know. Who knew giblets brought snow?
Yeah, I didn't know that. I guess you learn something new every day. And Ronald brings up.
Am I being too hard on our friend here?
I mean, I not really. I mean, that's the reality. I feel like is that it's not good enough right now. I saw Ronald put a little comment about Dallas team total. I like that.
I love that.
Dallas team. I think that's a bet. I really do. And that might be the bet of all of them. Maybe that's the way to attack this game. That way, if the Packers do somehow, roll with them, I still feel confident enough that Dallas is going to score a lot of points. I like that actually. That's probably the best way to attack that. We really talked enough about Lions and Rams. I mean, we talk about what about Jared Goff? I mean, to me, he kind of not even being talked about here, but Jared Goff gets a chance against his old team as well, Gabe.
Yeah, it's going to be intriguing. I really don't know how to attack that game. We've kind of been on the Rams the last few weeks talking about how they provide great value in terms of Super Bowl futures, and I really think that's true. I think, as crazy as it sounds, this might be their biggest hurdle, just because of the familiarity with teams like San Francisco. I know that might sound crazy to say, but with all the storylines, I mean, this is a bittersweet moment for both sides. So it's going to be really intriguing. I honestly don't know how to play this game. That's why I just stayed away. I really do want to take the Rams, but I have this gut feeling that the Lions are going to squeak it out.
I'll tell you the thing that scared me again of just taking the Rams and the plus 3 is because of their recent schedule and who they beat. Now, obviously, you throw out the 4th week. Sam Darnold was playing at quarterback. Before that, they beat the Giants by 1. They beat the Saints, whoop-de-doo. They beat the Commanders by 8. Maybe their most impressive of the stretch, they won 7 out of their last 8. Maybe the most impressive was a loss at Baltimore in a game they probably should have won. What was it, a kick for a touchdown?
Yeah.
They did beat Cleveland. That's pretty impressive as well, and they beat them pretty handily. But at Arizona before that and Seattle, plus throw before that, actually 4 out of 3, 4 out of 3, 4 out of 5. So I don't know. I mean, I hope we're not putting too much into the Rams here, and especially because I don't think I've seen one person pick Detroit, which scares the hell out of me as well. So whenever
which is
I see
why
that,
I like them.
It doesn't make me want to bet them. It doesn't make me want to bet the Rams without getting a little help. That's why I put them in a teaser. I do think they'll at least keep it close, at least for the most part. So it would take some kind of backdoor weird touchdown, I think, for them not to at least cover. But I don't see Matt Stafford getting out. I do think it will be back and forth, and I agree with. I think it was you that said it, Spencer. I think Dan Campbell's actually going to do something to screw that game up. So it'll be interesting. All right, thoughts before we go off the air here on this Thursday. Looking forward to this weekend. Gabe, we'll start with you.
My final thought, we talked a lot in this show about the Browns' #1 defense. I was doing a little write-up earlier, making the prediction and doing player props for this game. They're a great defense, don't get me wrong. They've got a lot of playmakers, but with the injuries they have, if you go back and look at the quarterbacks they face, they're perhaps not as good as everyone's giving them credit for. Trevor Siemian, Case Keenum, Clayton Tune, those aren't guys that inspire confidence from the opposition. So go Texans.
I will say this, Gabe. Be careful when you're betting and making picks. This is the reason why I don't put the Saints in very much. I will bet against them, and I will bet on them when I feel really strongly about it. But you got to be careful when you're putting your favorite team in anything, especially when you're on them. So you got to be careful of that. Spencer, final thought?
Oh yeah, I did the Nick Saban next team odds piece today, and it was very interesting. Some of the names on there. I personally think Steve Sarkisian's the biggest name to watch. I think they're gonna really go hard after him. Whereas as far as Texas, they're gonna have to pony up the big bucks. I bet Sark gets either jumps ship or gets a fat raise, because I think he's the name that Bama's going to want, but there's a lot of other names as well. The Washington coach is the current favorite. But if I had to pick, actually, I'm going to go with Mike Norvell. I think they steal him from Florida State.
Who you like, Gabe? Who you like in that?
I like either DeBoer or Kiffin. I think enough people will say no that Alabama eventually has to turn to Kiffin. Norvell, they poached an Alabama player earlier. He seems committed. He seems happy at Florida State. I don't think after last year he would leave them high and dry like that, although he's got the smallest buyout. I think Norvell makes the most sense. I think DeBoer or Kiffin gets the job.
I like Sarkisian because I think, again, I know it's been a while since they needed a coach. We've talked about this in pre-production, but Alabama tends to like guys who have had professional coaching experience as well, whether it's just pro experience or whether it's a combination of both. And that's why I like Sark in this spot. I think he fits there. You guys brought up good points of will Texas pony up and not let him go now that they get in the SEC. That would be interesting to watch. I just think when you get a chance, do you go coach Alabama if they give you a chance? I don't know. I think we're going to find out because I certainly think he's going to be in the conversation, and he'll probably let you know real quick if he's going to consider it. If he's not going to consider it, I think he'll tell you like within the next few days. Don't even talk to me because I'm staying in Texas. We'll see.
Yeah, like Lanning from Oregon did.
I think they'll have a coach in the next 48 hours. They got to make it quick because they now have 30 days for other teams to start poaching those players, and we know how ruthless the transfer portal is.
Yeah, you might have a good point there. We'll find out. Reminder, tomorrow morning, Larry Holder's going to be with me at 10 a.m. on all these same channels on Datitude as we talk. Look, we're going to end about half the show talking about the Saints and getting Larry's look, you guys already know what I think about the Saints and Dennis Allen staying and whatever else. But Larry Holder's brain. He covered the Saints for many, many years. Now covers the NFL for The Athletic. So obviously, we're also going to spend about half the show Larry's thoughts and Larry's picks of the week for the NFL Super Wild Card Weekend. We hope you enjoy it. It's an extended weekend, and it shows from what I'm hearing in New Orleans. Not only is it going to be a 3-day weekend, might be a 4-day weekend because it's supposed to be some kind of stupid ice storm. They're talking about maybe overnight Monday into Tuesday. So we might be off 4 days in a row here. Who the heck knows? Whatever it is, we hope you enjoy it, and we will see you back next week, next Thursday. We won't be back until next Thursday here on Bayou Bets. Enjoy the games, everyone. We hope we have fun stuff to talk about and not the same old thing all over again. See you next week.